Hey everybody, how's it going? I wanted to document here my new bipod setup for the CZ457. Of course, being a bipod, I can use it for other guns, but I really had this build in mind when I was purchasing it. So this is the Atlas BT65 Cal, or CAL. It stands for cant and lock. So of course you can cant the rifle and then lock it into place while the bipod stays stationary. The BT65 Cal does not have a panning feature, which might be popular for hunters or people shooting at moving objects, but it seems like the non-panning versions of bipods are a little bit more popular for precision shooters. So after doing a little bit of research, I decided that the BT65 Cal here was the right option for me. So in my last range trip video, I demonstrated a frustrating issue I was having with some of the Harris style bipods. Now the bipod I was using in the video was not a genuine Harris, but when I did have my Harris bipod, it was kind of the same issue. And that's the fact that when the bipod was deployed and you went to preload the bipod on whatever surface you're shooting on, the feet are able to rotate around the legs of the bipod. So even if there's good grip between the rubber feet and the surface, it'll still allow the bipod to slip forward because they'll roll. The BT65 Cal here has non-rotational legs, so nothing can rotate around the legs, which makes the bipod virtually impossible to slip forward because of the rotational factor in the legs. So not all Atlas bipods will have non-rotational legs, so obviously do your research when you're purchasing one, but this one fixes that issue for me personally. So this CZ457 in the MDT ACC Chassis here is my first rifle with an Arca Swiss rail in it, and I really wanted to utilize that feature. So you can see here I bought an Arca Swiss mount for the Atlas bipods. This is from Area 419. It's pretty cool. It's a very quick rapid adjustment system, which is kind of the whole point of the Arca system, the Arca rail, and it just has one big knob on the side to adjust the positioning of it. So obviously I'll show that in a little bit. The BT65 bipod that I purchased, you can see, actually has the Picatinny rail mount option, which is the non-quick release version. So it just uses two slotted screws to attach to a Picatinny rail, but since I'm going to be utilizing it with the Area 419 Arca Swiss mount, this mount is built for the no clamp head of Atlas bipods that use the 2-screw attachment, and this one did not come with it, and that was a little bit of an oversight on my part. I thought they would use that mount to attach the Picatinny mount, but the Picatinny mount is actually machined into the bipod head, so I had to purchase a replacement bipod head for the BT65, which isn't a huge deal because I'll have both options if I ever want to run this bipod on one of my Picatinny guns. But here is the new bipod head. This is the Atlas calls it the upgrade 45-degree head because the amount of cant you have built into the bipod stock is 30 degrees. This one here is 45 degrees in total. So they call it an upgrade, but it's also a good way of switching out the mounting system you have on your BT65. And this here is the no clamp version so that it can interface with the 2 screws on the Area 419. So the product code here is BT6569ML-NC, and the NC stands for no clamp. So I will be installing the replacement head here on video in a second, but just to show you here, I purchased this directly from BT in the States, and we got it shipped out pretty quickly. They also included a sticker, and we all love stickers for our gun cases, as well as I just thought this was kind of neat. It's like a little poker chip. A BT poker chip. It says Atlas Bipod, AccuShot Monopod, which are their products, and then on the other side, which is pretty cool, it says "We are support," which is kind of like their little mantra. So it's pretty cool. I don't know what the point of this little poker chip is, but it's pretty neat. If you know, if nothing else, just throw it in the range bag for fun. So the last thing I purchased was the spiked feet. So if you don't know, Atlas bipods have a very quick foot change system. You can change out the feet by just simply depressing a detent here, which is super easy to do. So I thought if I really wanted to prevent my bipod from slipping on certain surfaces, I might as well just buy some spiked feet while I was purchasing all the other parts. So I did get these very aggressively machined spikes that can attach onto the end of the bipod. Anyway, let's get this thing set up for the CZ. So I've already removed my old bipod and the M-Lock swivel stud that it was attached to, and we're just going to go ahead and replace the Picatinny mount here with the no clamp head, the 45-degree head, so I can mount it onto my Area 419 plate. So again, that's the replacement no clamp head. And yes, so there is a parts breakdown as well as instructions on how to replace the canting head. But I don't think I'll need this because I was already playing around with the bipod before, so it's pretty straightforward. You're going to just remove the Kmc Pod Lock by just unscrewing it all the way, like so. And then you're going to have just one bolt there to undo. I'm using an 11mm socket. You can also use a 7/16 inch socket as well. And you're just going to remove this completely, like so. There's going to be two washers on the bipod head here, a steel one it looks like and a brass. The steel one is slightly domed, and you're going to remove those, but be careful because there's a pin behind here that you don't want to lose. So I'm going to remove these washers and then show you what I mean by the pin. And I just dropped one. So above the threads there, you can see there's a little cutout and a little pin sits right above that. So if you take this out slowly, that pin you can see is right there, and that helps index the head of the bipod with the rest of it properly, and it sits inside that little groove up there. You can see the replacement head also has the same groove, so we won't be needing that anymore for now. And that's as far as you need to disassemble it, but just if you're curious, this piece here can come all the way out, and there's just two washers, one on either side. Oh, I should also mention that that pin sits inside this little slot here, inside this piece, like so. So it helps index this piece to the head. So when putting the pin back in, you can actually put the pin inside the canting head first, because it does have a little bit of a retention inside there. And then when you go to put this onto the screw here, that pin fits into that slot on the top there. So again, it helps index this head to the entire bipod. So we're going to just put it right like so. And you can see how the pin is sitting in there. If I move the head, it's also moving the screw, as you can see. So that's what the pin does. You're going to take your brass washer and put it on first, and then the domed steel washer, and then you're going to reinstall this little self-locking nut. And what's really cool about the design of these bipods is this is the stage where you can choose what tension you want your bipod to have when the pod lock is completely loosened. So if you want the bipod to have some friction in the canting motion, even when this pod lock is completely untightened, you can adjust that with this bolt at the moment. So I'm going to adjust mine so there's still a little bit of friction when the pod lock is not installed. Just about that. You can see how the head is not freely moving, which is kind of my preference, so there's still a little bit of friction there. And then all the pod lock will do is totally secure it down when I want to lock it into place. Pod lock now, just like so. So you can see here when the pod lock is locked all the way, this thing is totally secure. When I loosen it up, it's not completely flopping around because that bolt inside is still giving it some tension. So that's pretty cool, really neat design. Let's go ahead and throw this bipod onto the Arca Swiss mount. So the no clamp head on the Atlas bipods uses just a very simple slotted design with two screws. and they make mounts, obviously, like the Area 419 for many different things, including M-Lock, Picatinny, and Arca rails. So again, with the CZ being my first rifle with an Arca rail, I was really keen on using that feature. So right now I have to decide which side I want the loosening and tightening knob on, and I think I want it on my support side, so I'm going to put it to the left hand side of the bipod, and you can see here how the holes, of course, match up with the plate, and it's a simple reinstallation. And I'm just going to lightly snug them up for now, because I'll probably tighten them down with a little bit of Loctite in the future. But there we go. The bipod is all ready to go mount onto the ACC chassis. Okay, so for those who might not be too familiar with what the Arca Swiss rail is, which I wasn't until very recently, it's essentially an oversized dovetail, 1.5 inches wide and smooth without notches. So it's not like a Picatinny rail where there's set positions you can mount your accessories onto. This one is just a completely smooth rail, and that allows for very quick, rapid change in the position of whatever support you're using. So in this case, a bipod. Let me go ahead and install it here. It's very simple. Again, there's just one knob that you will loosen and then install onto the rifle. Like so. And just tighten it down. And so right now it's kind of in the middle of the rail, you can see there. If I want a longer footprint, a little bit more of a stable platform to shoot off of, I can just quickly loosen the screw and push that bipod all the way to the forward of my gun, and now I have a nice long footprint to work off of. This is very versatile, again, for such a quick change in your position of your support, because in competition shooting you really have to adapt to whatever you're shooting off of. So say you're going to a much smaller surface to shoot off of, but you want to use both your front support and a rear bag, you can loosen the mount here and just push your rifle all the way forward, and then it'll give you a much shorter footprint to work with. So hopefully you can use both your front bipod and a shooting bag on a smaller surface. So one thing that I do like about the Area 419 mount is that it takes very little rotation of the knob to loosen up the mount. So right now it is tightened down. You can see the gun is not going anywhere on the mount, but it takes probably less than a quarter rotation to loosen that up enough where you can move the gun on the rail system. So that's pretty cool. Again, tightening down is just as quickly. So very rapid adjustment, really good for competition. I think it's going to be a really nice combo to run on the ACC chassis here. So stay tuned for any updates and stuff that I have with the system. So thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.